Hello and welcome to Parshat Korach 5784. Sorry, we're starting a little bit later than usual. Nevertheless, we have quite a bit of Torah to learn, and God willing, we'll have some new insights into this very beautiful parsha where Moshe Rabbeinu is questioned, his leadership is threatened by a man by the name of Korach, who seems to be acting selfishly, and he doesn't say that to anybody, and that's not how he presents himself. But clearly, there's something going on that's not exactly as open-hearted as Moshe's leadership had been up to this point. So, without further ado, let's see what the commentaries say about what we can learn from the parsha, from the words themselves, and from the sources themselves. Let's go share the source sheet that we have sent out. And most of this occurs, most of the class today, except for our last comment, is going to be from chapter 16. So again, early on in chapter 16, Tet Zion, Pasuk Gimel through Tet. It's worthwhile to look at all of it. It's basically most of the first Aliyah. And Korach rose up and he gathered together people. V'ikahalu al Moshe ve'al Aharon ve'amru alehem. They gathered against Moshe and against Aharon, and they said to them, Rav lachem, you've had enough. You have enough power. Kol ha'ida kulam kedoshim. The whole nation is holy. Uv'tocham Hashem. Hashem is among them. Madua tidnasu al kahal Hashem. Why do you take control of the Jewish people? That was the argument. And of course, there's some validity to the idea that obviously the Jewish people are holy. We've had this idea many times in our classes. We are a holy people. Hashem created us and chose us to follow His rule and to have a mission in life. It's a holy mission. It's the mission of Hashem, after all. And nevertheless, there seems to be a need for some sort of leadership. Vishma Moshe v'yipol al panav. Moshe heard and he fell on his face. That usually means he was either frustrated or he cried or he prayed. Either way, v'daber el Korach, and then I guess he got up and he said to Korach ve'kol adato and all of his people, they mourned, saying, Boker v'yudah Hashem et asher lo. In the morning, Hashem will reveal, Hashem will make known who is His. Ve'et kodesh v'kriv alav, and what's holy, v'kriv alav et kol asher yichvar lo v'yakriv elav. So he's going to make clear to whom he is close. Zot asu, do this. Kulachem machtot, grab fire pans. Korach v'chol adato, Korach and all your people. Utnu bahen eish, put on them fire. V'esimu alehem ketoret, and burn the special incense that's only supposed to be for Beit Hamikdash. You burn them in your fire pans. Hashem, for Hashem machar tomorrow. V'ayah ha'ish asher yivchar Hashem, and whoever Hashem chooses, who hakodesh, he's going to be obviously victorious, and he's going to be clearly the Holy One. Rav lachem b'nei Levi, you've had enough, b'nei Levi. You have enough responsibilities as it is. V'yomer Moshe el Korach shimu na b'nei Levi. Then Moshe said to him, listen to me, you sons of Levi. He, by the way, also is a descendant of Levi. Hama'at mikem ki hivdil elokei Yisrael etchem me'adat Yisrael. Is it a small thing that Hashem chose you from amongst the Jewish people to be a Levi? To do the service of the Mishkan. Hashem la'amod lifnei ha'ida l'shartam. And you serve the Jewish people. You have enough responsibilities as it is. So, based on the following Gemara in Kedushin, it's a strange place to have a a commentary on this, but based on this Gemara, I couldn't find the source. I know it's the Sfat Emet. I don't exactly know where he says this. Could be in his commentary there, or could be in. I couldn't find it in his commentary on Chumash. But either way, the Gemara there says that we learn a very important thing about there's an argument that occurs in the Talmud about what Kohanim are exactly. Are they? It says, are they Kohane Shluche derachmananihu? Is it that like Rabbi Yeshua says that the Kohanim are messengers of Hashem? They are representatives of Hashem to us, for us as people. Or it could be that they are servants of us. They do our service. They represent us like a shliach tzibur, right? Like a chazan in a shul. So too the Kohanim represented the people in their pleas to Hashem. So which way is it? Are Kohanim an avenue for us to express ourselves to Hashem, or are Kohanim and Levim, by extension, some sort of like radar or radar dish that brings energy from Hashem to us? There's some sort of connection, right? They put A and B together, so there's C for Kohanim. You're welcome. Right? So they are definitely in between somehow, but for whom do they serve? Whose glue are they? Are they gluing us to Hashem, or are they gluing Hashem to us, as it were? So this argument in the Gemara says the Sfat Emet is the same argument that Korach and Moshe have. In other words, or supposedly, right? Obviously, Korach, as we said before, has some sort of selfish intent. So there's more to his argument than what he says. But the logic, the reason why so many people might have been led astray by Korach is because, at least in word, he seems to be arguing the point that indeed the Jewish people have a Leviim, have these Kohanim, and they and the Jewish people are all holy. They're all holy. So the Kohanim then serve us. They are, they are pulling our energy, or whatever you want to call it, and expressing it to Hashem, as opposed to what Moshe says later on, and that's in that last verse that we have quoted, in verse 9 there, that you are, says Moshe, you are you are serving whom? You're serving the Jewish people. That's Moshe's opinion. So it seems like a legitimate opinion. It's a legitimate argument. And that's what the Gemara is, the Talmud later on has this as an argument. But we know, and the Malbim makes it very clear in case we didn't know that already, the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot uses this example of the argument between Korach and Moshe as an argument that's not l'shem shamayim, an argument that is purely selfish. And we've learned before in the Malbim how selfish it was, and it's an amazing idea if you think about it. Right, the Jewish people have these 252 people who are all fighting over the position of Aharon. Now, all of them have these fire pans, and all of them are going to do this. What for? To show that they deserve to do the job. Now, hold on a second there. If Korach deserves to do the job, then this other person does not, and this other person is going to die. His soul is going to get burnt out of him. Right, so you can't have it. So everybody is going to pass this test, and everybody in that group knew that. They knew that they were under the impression, they were mistaken, of course, but they were under the impression that they would pass the test individually, and everybody else among them would not. That's why the Mishnah says that a machloket, an argument between Hillel and Shammai, is a machloket l'shem shamayim, because it's an argument between two seemingly logical opinions between Hillel and Shammai. And what's the argument that's not l'shem shamayim? Korach v'chol adato. It doesn't say Korach versus Moshe. It says Korach against, really, his entire group, because everybody in that group had an individual desire to win and pass that test, and for everybody else to drop dead. Right? They were all sure that they were going to be the only ones to survive this test. And that's how you know that it's an argument that's not l'shem shamayim. Somebody who really cares about the Jewish people and expressing Hashem's shechina in this world would not be performing a test hoping that everybody else around them would die. All right, that's the Sfat Emet, a little bit Malbim, a little bit Pirkei Avot. We have a good start into the parsha. Later on, after when Hashem when Moshe tells the Bnei Korach, not Bnei Korach, the Korach and his followers that they should stop doing what they're doing, or else Hashem is going to punish them. He says, he wants to make Moshe needs there to be a sign for the Jewish people to know that this is not acceptable. This is not Hashem's will that the Korach do this, and that there needs to be a sign that he is wrong, a miraculous sign. This is probably the only time I can remember when Moshe asks for a miraculous sign for all the people to know something. Plenty of times does Moshe actually perform miraculous signs himself, but those are all commanded by Hashem. Here, Moshe is asking Hashem to perform this. And he says, this is chapter 16, verse 29, Chavtet, Im kamot kol ha'adam yamutun, if Korach and his men are going to die the normal death of people, or they die naturally, if kudat kol ha'adam yipakid alehem lo Hashem shalachani, then it'll be proof, if they die a normal, natural death, it's proof that Hashem did not send me. In other words, if they die in unnatural death, with the earth swallowing them up, pulling in their possessions with them, etc. So that was an unusual, amazing miracle. So that proved that indeed Hashem sent Moshe. As if we reading the Torah need proof of that, it's pretty clear in the text itself. But the people of the time, they needed some sort of proof. The Gemara in Nedarim says an interesting thing. The Gemara in Nedarim, Lametet Amud Bet, so 39b, focuses on the fact that one of the words here that are used to describe their fate, as it were, is pukudat. Now, pikudat doesn't only mean fate. Amarish Lakish, remez li bikur cholim min haTorah minayin. Where is there a hint to the idea of visiting the sick? Where's that mitzvah? Now, we know people visit the sick in the Torah, but how do you know it's a mitzvah? Right? Shenemar, as it says in this verse, im kamot kol adam yamutun ele pekudat kol adam. My Masha, how is this verse proof of the need to visit the sick? Amarava im b'mot kol ha'adam yamutun ele shehen cholim umutalin ba'arisatan b'nei adam makravim otam ma'abriot omrim lo shalachani lo Hashem shalachani lazeh. So if they would have died a common man, the normal way that people die, in other words, they would have gotten sick, then they would be visited, people would come to them. But then, in other words, Moshe is saying, if that were the case, then Hashem did not send me. Writes the Kli Yakar, quoting this Gemara in Nedarim that we already saw inside. So that's that this is a hint to Bikur Cholim. Shenemar im gemot kol adam, etc. If they die the death of normal people, in other words, being sick and be visited, shehem cholim utalim al arisotehem, they're visited on their bedsides. Bnei adam makrivim otam, right? And then but Rashi's comment in the Gemara there is, Kuda kol adam yipakid alehem pekida. Zu hainu bikur. So this pekuda is a is also means visiting. So says the Kliyakar. Let's continue. Hine makom ati leparish pekida zu derech acher yesh bet minei toalot bebikur zeb echadu. There are two reasons, the two benefits to being visited when somebody is sick, right? So now we're on a completely different subject. We're on the subject of bikur cholim. The first is to, as the Kliyakara continues, is to do what's told for them, what's right. For the makrivim acharei tzrachav shel hachola, to give them what they need to fulfill their needs. That's one of the things that's one of the reasons why it's a mitzvah to visit the sick, is to actually help them. They need water, they need help getting out of bed, whatever they need. You provide that service. That's the reason to visit the sick. That's one of the reasons to visit the sick. We had a class back when we were doing our Jewish life cycles class a few years ago. We had a class on visiting the sick on Bikur Cholim, and we pointed out that you could also do Bikur Cholim over the telephone. Wait a minute. How can I fulfill the needs of somebody? I'm not going to be able to get him a glass of water. I'm not going to be able to help him out of bed if I'm calling him over the phone. So there's another thing that happens when you visit the sick. The second thing, the second help that that happens when you visit the sick is that where's Sheni? Hold on. Hasheni hu l'tzorah hacholchin. The second benefit is the benefit of the person who's coming to visit the sick. The visitor gets a benefit. Shema ki kamo shetov lelechet el beit avel. It's good to go to the house of the sick. Kedei shehacha yiten al libo kach tov lelechet al hachola. Ki al yedei zeh yivakesh v'yipashfesh v'masav ki yelchu shema avirei lev ruchokim mitzedaka asher ein pakar elokim beneged enehem v'lachem ha'arel tach mehaven la'acharitam ki tohu vo l'sof l'makom rima. It's there's a lot to translate there, but basically what he says is all of this is good for the visitor, because the visitor now in this place might be inspired to do teshuva. Right? When we are in a place where people are suffering, when we're in a place where we see people not at their best, that's one opportunity for us to look inward and say, basically, but for the grace of God, go I, right? That could be me. That could be me in that bed. I don't want that to happen to me. I know I'm not perfect. There's things I need to change, and that might be an impetus to do this teshuva and to become a better person. And that is the second reason to visit the sick. All right. So all this from the word pekuda, which means both a visit, and it also means to sort of to remember, to consider, and because you remember, as the Kliyakar continues, you remember your Yom Hamita, you remember that you will die one day, and you want to change things and be a better person. Right, so Rav Moshe Sternbach on this. Rav Moshe Sternbach in Tam V'dat. He continues, he quotes again the Gemara like we did before, and he quotes the Perush HaKliyakar, Ki Bikur Cholim yesh shnei minei toalot, and then he says, that's beautiful, and obviously we have the mitzvah. The Gemara is learning out the mitzvah Bikur Cholim. That's an important mitzvah. It's great, but let's bring this back to the parsha for a minute, right? Let's not go too far from Pshat here, right? The parsha is talking about Korach. Korach is about to get threatened and about to die by being sucked into the earth miraculously. So So let's see how this fits back into that. We know that the part of the miracle of Korach's death is that he died miraculously. The miracle was he died right away, without any sickness. Right? And bidvarov nilmad yisod musad makri cholin. So we from the fact that we learned this great thing from visiting the sick, and the whole idea of teshuva is that the teshuva that the person does by being inspired by visiting the sick is a benefit not only for the visitor, but is also a benefit for the person who's sick. What does that mean? She'im besavat halichatam el hachola, by having these thoughts when visiting the sick, oraru l'shuv b'tshuva, and they decide to do tshuva and to come back and be better Jews. Marbi mehem zchuyot l'hachola. They increase the merits of the sick person. The sick person benefits from this. That's what's going to heal the sick person, is the fact that people are doing teshuva because of that person. That merit is created in the benefit of the person. Segula niflahi ad me'od. And it's a great segula to visit the sick if you need to do teshuva, and especially if you care about the person and you want to create skuyot merits for the person to get better. Do teshuva in that person's merit, and that's what ties it back to the parsha, because all of these people who, because he didn't get sick and because he died right away without the opportunity for other people to do teshuva and to do mitzvot in his merit, he did not merit that teshuva, and then he goes straight to where he goes. His reward, his consequence for having a rebellion against Moshe is punished straight away. He is not given any opportunity to do teshuva. He was given plenty of opportunities to back off and to not do this rebellion. But once he decided headlong to go right into it, then he did not have a chance at that point. And nobody's teshuva created any merits for him, because nobody had the chance to do teshuva. Nobody visited him. He died right away, didn't get sick, nobody cried, nobody did teshuva, and then he does not get the merits of that either, and that's why he died the way he did. That's bringing it back to the parsha in the brilliant way that Rav Moshe Sternbach does. All right, a few verses later, chapter 16, verse 32. Let's see the actual punishment. V'tiftach ha'aretz et piha, the earth opened up its mouth. V'tivla otam et betehem, and it sucked in them and their houses. V'et kol adam, and all the people asher lekorach v'et kol haruchush. They sucked up all the men and Korach and all of their stuff, all of their rechush. So on the words vet kol haruchush, on all of their stuff, the Sforno has a question. Why can't we just leave his stuff? You know, he had a big fancy flat screen color TV or whatever kind of Narishkeit he had. Leave it. Who cares? The Jewish people don't need to see that sucked into the earth. What's the benefit of that? How does that add to the miracle, the punishment? What does that do for us? And very similar to what Rav Moshe Sternbach said about the teshuva process. It says here, "Shelo yiskush yino tzadikim ba'amlam." We don't want that the righteous should get any should get any benefit from this. Ki'inya nifla sela mecheko matzah ani v'nit parsem ba. We don't want them to donate it. We don't want them to we don't want their children to get any benefit from it, to sell it, to anything else. There's a midrash that he's quoting in Sifra, is that if a coin fell out of his lap and a poor man found it and used it to buy food, right? In other words, we don't want any benefit. We don't want even the poor person to be fed by any of his possessions. We don't want anybody to sell it, to give it to the poor or anything. We don't want any benefit from this stuff, because even that would benefit him. We don't want him to get any benefits even in the world to come. Now, we know that when a person passes away, there's no more mitzvot that person can do. There are ways, of course, to still benefit that person, including to donate money in his merit, etc., but also to donate his things, right? If unless obviously there's things that his children, his wife, inherit from him. But if there's anything that they can make a gemach or whatever and donate his items to other people, that's considered a great merit for that person. That merit did not belong to Korach. He didn't even get that merit. So again, this the same idea. Not only was he not able to do teshuvah, he also wasn't able to get any merits in the future in the world to come. Right. So as the story continues, right, they get sucked into the earth. They have no chance, and then the Jewish people get scared, rightfully so. This must have been a frightening scene. This is a horror movie, right? And so it says in Bamidbar, Ted Zion, Lamed Dalin, Lamed Hey. So again, chapter 16, verses 34 and 35. And all the Jews who were around them, Nasu Lakolam, were scared by, they ran away from their voices. Maybe there's an earthquake. An earthquake. And maybe it's going to take us. H-Shem, and then now Hashem is really angry. A fire came out from him and burned up the souls of the 250 people who brought that incense offering that they should not have brought. Okay. Writes Rabbeinu Bachai. Famous idea. We're not going to translate the whole thing, just in being conscious of time here. That they raised up their voices. They were afraid of these voices. So there's a famous Gemara, again. Also, I believe there's a midrash like this as well, that there was an Arab in the desert who showed a Tana the hole that Rabbi Bar Chana, right? He showed them the hole that Korach fell into, that was sucked into, that still exists in the desert, and from that hole you can hear the words Moshe Emet, V'Torato Emet. Right? Maybe they're probably not singing it; they're probably screaming it, crying it. Right? Either way, that Moshe is true and his Torah is true. Rabbi Bar Chana was right, and this is an event that happened to him, and so that's the voice that they heard, and this is the voice that emanates all the way back, all the way down from Gehenna, which is of course a metaphor. Obviously, there's no burning hole down there. This is all a metaphor for the fact that Korach's voice, Korach's teshuva, and his pain is still ongoing. The H-Shem made Hashem, and then a fire came out from Hashem. Now, this is obviously Midotav shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu mida keneged mida. Says Rabbeinu Bachai, you should know, in case you didn't know this already, that whenever Hashem punishes, whenever Hashem rewards, it's always mida keneged mida. It's always the same way that the person acts. Right? Hashem tzilcha al yad yaminecha. Hashem is like a shadow of ours. Whatever we do, Hashem does back to us. So if we, in this case, Korach bikesh mala rima she'ena ruya, lo, he wanted a greatness that did not belong to him. B'zeh keneged Hashem yitbarach, from Hashem. Lefichach nadon berida. He wanted to be higher than he belonged, so his punishment is he's lower than he belongs. He's lower than the earth. He's in a hole, right? And these people, right? These people who have these fire pans, they wanted to have fire of holiness, so Hashem kills them also with fire from the Most Holy, from Hashem Himself. So again, this is an indication of the fact, and we see this throughout Tanakh. We've talked about this before as well. The idea that indeed is the idea that indeed we have Hashem punishing us and rewarding us, mida keneged mida. The same way that we behave is the way that that Hashem deals with us and judges us measure for measure, not to be confused with the problematic Shakespeare play of the same name. All right, it's called the problem play. I'm not making that up. All right, so let's get out of chapter 6 for just a moment, shall we? Chapter 16. Let's get into towards the end of the parsha. Chapter 17, verse 23. We know that the people still were not convinced that Aharon had the powers that he deserved. Sorry, let's take it back a step. That he deserved the powers that he had, the responsibilities that he had. And so there was still a test. And the test was to all the tribal leaders put their staff into a tent. And of all those staffs, Aharon also put his staff, and Aaron's staff sprouted almonds and blossoms, as it says in chapter 17, verse 23. Yud Zayin Chav Gimel, Vahi Mimacharat, the next day, Vayavo Moshe El Ohel HaEdut, he went to the tent, Vihine Perach Mate Aaron Levet Levi, the staff of Aharon, of the tribe of Levi, was growing blossoms. And it had sprouts and it had blossoms, and it also had almonds, shkedim. And the question that is asked by many Meforshim, I think we've had, if I'm not mistaken, we've had the Hamak Davar, we had the Netziv a few years ago, discussing the symbolism of why almonds. So the Korach Chaim also has something to say on this. Korach Chaim HaKadosh writes that these are almonds. What's the symbolism here? So he says, Rabbeinu Zal Amru Tam Shkedim. The rabbis tell us what the reason is for the Shkedim. Quoting Rashi, basically, so it says, La'id Shekol Hama'ar al HaKahuna Poranuto Mimaheret Lavo. So anybody that is going to argue about the kahuna, about who should be the Kohen, that Aaron should be the Kohen, his punishment is going to come quickly. Just like almonds ripen quickly, so to this person will be punished quickly. That's the symbolism. That's why almonds. Adkan, that's the quote. Venira, now he goes on his own here. Nira shehuchrechu lomar ken. That it seems like the rabbis are forced to say this. What does that mean? she'en rui lebal hanesh levakish pri lemamaher lehafriach. Because really, we, it doesn't really make sense for Hashem to do this miracle with a fruit that blossoms quickly, with this um, almonds. Really, it would be more of a miracle the other way around, right? The other way around. If it was a miracle that, say, I don't know, trying to think of a fruit that takes a long time to grow. Say, I think, let's say figs, right? I don't know. I don't know how long it takes to grow figs. Don't write me any hate mail. I'm a city boy. All right. So let's say it would have been figs that take a long time to blossom, and they blossom overnight. That would be a miracle. Almonds, you could see it growing overnight. Vanilla. That's another example. Vanilla only blossoms once a year, one day a year, in fact, just for a few hours. So real vanilla is not the vanilla extract, not the artificial vanilla, but the real vanilla is very expensive for that reason, because it only grows in one location and grows very, very quickly. Very, very slowly. It only blossoms once a year. So that would be a miracle. Have it be vanilla. Why does it have to be almonds? So that's why we need to say Shinira chas v'shalom hafchatat hayocheled shemavakish achar pri shemamaher. So it seems that he doesn't have the ability to do a miracle with something that takes a long time to grow. Amru ki yesh tam ladavar lohutzrach. That's lafriach shkedim velo pri acher. That's why the rabbis had to explain the reason why it's shkedim, why it's almonds and not some other fruit, because almonds grow quickly. And there has to be a reason why Hashem would do this miracle with the almonds. It's to teach this lemon, so to show that the punishment is going to be that quick. That's why the miracle had to happen with an almond. If it wasn't for this, then here's his example. If it weren't for the fact that almonds would teach this lesson that Hashem punishes quickly, Hashem would have done the miracle with a charuv, with a carob. Carobs grow very slowly. I was thinking, I don't know why I was thinking figs, but yeah, carobs would be a great example of a fruit that takes a long time to grow, and that's the miracle. That would have been a much greater miracle otherwise. Otherwise, because why would Hashem want to limit the miracle in any way? It's obviously to teach another point, to teach a point that the quickness, the swiftness of its growth is what Hashem wanted to emphasize. How quickly almonds grow is an indication of how quickly someone will be punished if they want to take up an argument against Kohanim, that Kohanim don't deserve their position, that the Moshe chose Aharon because of nepotism. Any kind of argument like that in the future will be struck down quickly and decisively, and just like an almond grows, so too will the punishment be immediate and very clear. Thank you again for listening and joining the class. I hope you enjoyed. And next week, God willing, we'll continue with Parshat Chukat. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful rest of your week. Shabbat Shalom, and also enjoy your 4th of July if you celebrate.